Hi there, hello, I'm Pastor Pat, and welcome to Base Camp. Breathing. I usually take it for granted. Most of the time, I'm not even aware I'm doing it. But lately, with all of the wildfires, the air throughout the western United States and beyond has become thick with smoke. This has made breathing difficult. There's been a lot of coughing, phlegm in the throat. Oh, tasty. And even burning in the lungs. It's so bad that people are being warned to stay indoors. I was thrilled the other day when the air quality warning was briefly down to yellow and I could actually go outside for a run. The desire for a breath of clean air has definitely worked its way up my list of priorities. It's true what they say, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. I've experienced similar things in other areas before. Summit Church is located right next to a fast food restaurant, a pizza place, plus a couple of food trucks parked nearby. Usually, that's not a big deal, and actually kind of convenient. But during fasting times, when going without food, oh my goodness. I think I can smell every French fry that they make. Years ago, I changed my diet and started exercising more and lost 65 pounds, as you can probably tell. One of the exercises I did was running on a treadmill, and to distract myself from the fact that I was running on a treadmill, I would watch TV while I was doing it. I never realized there were so many commercials for really bad for you food until I was no longer allowing myself to eat it. The struggle was real. But going without food is nothing compared to going without water. When I was in high school, I was a wrestler. One week, we were getting ready for a Saturday tournament when the wrestler at the weight class below me got injured. This was on a Wednesday. The coach decided to move me down to his weight class. I stopped eating on Thursday and stopped drinking on Friday at practice. We would often lose 5 pounds of water weight in practice, and I didn't allow myself to replenish any of it because I wanted to make weight the next morning. Public service announcement, this was a really bad idea. Extremely unhealthy and potentially dangerous. Don't ever do it. I was a teenager and not very bright. I've never been so thirsty in my life. I dreamed about water that night. Afterwards, I said I would never go without water like that again. I didn't think I could want something as strongly as I wanted water. I was wrong. As a youth pastor, I would take the teens to camp every summer. Camp was beautiful with a gorgeous lake. At the lakefront, we had something called a blob. Blobs are awesome. It's basically a giant air mattress with a tower next to it. A person climbs out to the end of the air mattress, and then another person leaps from the tower onto the other end, launching the first person into the air. This was back before I lost the weight, so I was a pretty big boy and could shoot those little middle school girls practically into orbit. Good times. One day, while I was out there, it started to rain, and since there was thunder, we had to shut the blob down. With the weather not being nice, we hadn't had any kids to blob for a while, so I'd taken my life jacket off. Standing on top of the tower, I decided that rather than climb down, because, that's just too much work, I'd just jump onto the blob. What I hadn't thought about was that the rain had made the blob wet and slippery. And with no life jacket, I was also wet and slippery. When I landed on the blob, I immediately slid backwards toward the dock and tower with no way to stop myself. I was scared I was going to hit my head and knock myself out as I fell into the water. And with no life jacket on, I was probably going to drown. Miraculously, I didn't, and came up out of the water feeling pretty happy, but my relief was momentary. In my panic as I fell into the water, I must have breathed some of it in without realizing it. When I came back up, that water blocked my airway and none could get into my lungs. Even though I had climbed up onto the dock, I was drowning. The lifeguard ran over to me, but didn't know what to do. How can he rescue someone from drowning when they're already out of the water? I looked over and could see all the kids from our youth group watching, terrified from the beach. I found found out later that I actually turned blue. Eventually, my body was able to expel the water, and I was able to take a breath of beautiful, wonderful air again. In a very brief amount of time, I suddenly developed quite the appreciation for it. I don't think I took a single breath for granted the whole rest of that day. Desire. We all have things that we desire. Some are wants, some like food, water, or air, are needs, and some we need to be desperate for. There is one desire that we should be desperate for above all else. Psalm 63 verses 1 through 8. You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. I have seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and your glory. Because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. I will be fully satisfied as with the richest of foods. With singing lips, my mouth will praise you. On my bed, I remember you. I think of you through the watches of the night. Because you are my help, I sing in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. Your right hand upholds me. David, the man who wrote this psalm, wrote it while he was hiding out in a desert. It was hot, with no water. There wasn't any food, and there were people trying to kill him. Yet all those physical needs that he had just reminded him how much more he needed God. He had a real desire for food, water, and survival, but there was just one thing that he was desperate for, and that was God. David knew that his physical needs were important, but they were nothing compared to his spiritual ones. Even if all his physical needs were met, if he didn't connect with God, it was pointless. Jesus said in Mark chapter 8, verse 36, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" What do you desire? What are you desperate for? What comes first? There are a lot of things that call out for your attention. School, family, friends, money, stuff, responsibilities. Some of those are good, some maybe not so much. Some are important needs, and some are just wants. But nothing is as important as your relationship with God. That's the one thing you should be truly desperate for. How desperate are you? Are you a little hungry? Starving? Longing as in a fast? Are you overwhelmingly thirsty to the point of dreaming of connecting with Him? Are you needing Him like you need your next breath, realizing that you will perish without Him? What's your desperation level? Whatever it is, let that be your starting point, and now take a step towards the next level. How do you do that? Well, I've found that the more time I spend in God's presence, the more time I want to spend in God's presence. So start making that a priority. Maybe turn off the screen for a while and read some of your Bible instead, or listen to some worship music, or spend a moment or two talking to Him in prayer. Choose to attend a church service or event that maybe you wouldn't normally go to. Give something up for a bit, choosing to desire God more than you desire that item or that activity. Maybe go on a fast where you don't eat for a set amount of time, whether that's one meal, one day, 1 week, whatever. And let your body's desire for food remind you how much more you need to desire and be desperate for Him. The point is, choose to seek Him more than something else you normally seek, and more than you already do. We need to be desperate for God. After all, He's desperate for us. For God so loved the world that He sent His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life. To be in God's presence is to have true life, and that's something to be desperate for. I'm Pastor Pat with Base Camp, a ministry of Summit Church in beautiful Bozeman, Montana, and I want to remind you to keep being desperate for God. Grow your desire for Him. We have a desire to see you in person. If you're in the Bozeman area, you can join us for services every Sunday at 9:15 and 11 o'clock. We're located at 921 West Mendenhall, Bozeman, Montana, 59715. You can also check us out everywhere that we're online. Find us on Facebook and YouTube at Summit Church MT, or check out our website, summitchurchmt.com. Until next time, keep growing in desire and desperation for God. Bye!